Alcatraz? On an island in San Francisco Bay rises a prison that became a symbol of absolute isolation, Alcatraz. Its walls are surrounded by the cold, turbulent waters of the Pacific Ocean, and the strong currents and sharks made escape nearly impossible. That is why the prison received the nickname, The Rock. Here, the most dangerous criminals in America were held, including gangsters like Al Capone. Prisoners lived in tiny cells, were constantly under surveillance, and had almost no contact with the outside world. The only entertainment was books and rare hours of walks in the yard. Despite its reputation as an impregnable fortress, there were several escape attempts in Alcatraz's history. The most famous occurred in 1962, when 3 inmates, brothers John and Clarence Anglin and their companion Frank Morris, dug holes in ventilation shafts, made papier-mâché demi-heads, and at night climbed onto the roof. To this day, it is unknown whether they managed to swim to shore. According to the official version, they drowned. But there is no evidence of this. The legend of the 3 escapees lives on to this day, fueling the myth of America's most terrifying and mysterious prison. ADX Florence. If Alcatraz became a symbol of the past, then ADX Florence, built in 1994 in the state of Colorado, is the model of a modern prison of the future. It is called the Alcatraz of the Rockies, or simply, Hell on Earth. ADX is designed to hold the most dangerous criminals, terrorists, and serial killers. Here, prisoners face complete sensory deprivation. The cells, only 2 by 3 meters in size, are made of concrete, with a built-in toilet, sink, and a small window through which only a piece of the sky is visible. Prisoners spend 23 hours a day in solitude, and the remaining hour, in the same kind of concrete yard, surrounded by high walls. Any communication is reduced to a minimum, and many inmates gradually lose their sanity. Among the most famous inmates are the terrorist Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, World Trade Center bomber Ramzi Youssef, and Mexican drug lord El Chapo. ADX Florence is not just a prison. It is a slow-working machine that breaks the human mind. Lubyanka. In the center of Moscow rises a building known to anyone who has ever been interested in the history of the USSR, Lubyanka. Once, it housed the headquarters of the NKVD and the KGB, as well as one of the most terrifying prisons in the country. For millions of people, the word Lubyanka became synonymous with fear. This is where political prisoners accused of espionage or anti-Soviet activity were brought. In the basements of Lubyanka, interrogations, torture, and executions took place. Prisoners often did not know why they were arrested or what would happen to them. Some were sent to the Gulag camps, others to execution. The prison became infamous for its cruelty and complete secrecy. Information about what happened behind its walls only became known after the collapse of the USSR. Today, the building still houses the FSB, and part of the premises is used as a museum. But the shadow of Lubyanka still looms over the history of the country, reminding of the time when fear was the main instrument of power. Black Dolphin. On the border with Kazakhstan, in the Orenburg region, lies one of Russia's most heavily guarded prisons. Black Dolphin. This is a special regime colony for life-sentenced prisoners, where serial killers, cannibals, and terrorists are held. The prison got its name from the statue of a black dolphin installed on its grounds. But behind this almost harmless symbol hides a true hell for prisoners. Strict rules are in force here. Inmates move only in a bent position, blindfolded, and escorted by 2 guards. The cells are equipped with several doors, grills, and video surveillance. Prisoners spend 23 hours a day in their cells. Their schedule is planned down to the minute: wake up, food, inspection, walk back to the cell. There have been no escapes here. The control system is perfected. Black Dolphin is called the place from which there is no return. People who end up here know that they will never be free again. Prison S21. At the end of the 1970s, the Khmer Rouge came to power in Cambodia, led by Pol Pot. Their regime is remembered for monstrous cruelty and mass repression. One of the symbols of these crimes became Prison S21, located in a former school building in Phnom Penh. Everyone suspected of betraying the regime was brought here: intellectuals, teachers, doctors, even children. Prisoners were tortured, forced to sign confessions of fabricated crimes. The methods were extremely brutal: beatings, electric shocks, drownings, deprivation of sleep and food. During its existence, more than 14,000 people passed through S21. Only a few survived, according to different sources, from 7 to 12 inmates. The rest were destroyed in the killing fields outside the city. Today, S21 has been turned into a genocide museum, reminding of the terrible pages of Cambodia's history. Karosta Prison. On the coast of the Baltic Sea, in the city of Liepaja, lies the former military prison Karosta. It was built back in the 19th century as barracks, but soon the premises were turned into a disciplinary isolator for sailors and soldiers. Later, political prisoners were held here during Nazi and Soviet occupation. Karosta is known for its brutality. Prisoners were beaten, starved, held for hours in the cold or in damp basements. During World War II, partisans, underground fighters, and enemies of the regime were brought here, many of whom were executed right in the prison yard. They say this place still holds a terrifying energy. After the prison was closed, the building was turned into a museum, but tourists and researchers claim to have seen something there: ghosts of former inmates, footsteps, and voices in empty corridors. Today, Karosta is the only prison in Europe where you can not only take a tour but also spend the night as a prisoner. Tourists are locked in cells, fed prison food, and even subjected to interrogations. For many, this experience is shocking, even in game form. The prison's atmosphere oppresses and breaks. Karosta is an example of how a place of fear and pain turned into a museum of memory. But its walls still remind us of the price paid for discipline in different eras. Carandiru Prison. In Sao Paulo once stood one of the most notorious prisons in South America, Carandiru. It opened in the 1920s and was designed for 3,000 inmates. But by the end of the 20th century, more than 8,000 people were held there. The conditions were horrific. Cells overcrowded several times over. Disease was rampant everywhere, especially AIDS, which killed inmates by the dozens. In fact, the prison was controlled by gangs, not the administration. The most terrifying episode was the massacre of 1992. During a prisoner riot, police stormed Carandiru and carried out a slaughter. 111 prisoners were killed in just a few hours. Many of them, after they had already surrendered. This case shocked Brazil and became a symbol of the brutality of the law enforcement system. After that, Carandiru still existed for several more years, but in 2002 it was finally closed and demolished. Today, there is a park in its place, but the memory of the prison remains in books, films, and eyewitness accounts.